morning. My name is Chara Dio. I'm the National Director for PRAD Project. Ownership, right, and development of ASM is a project funded by EU and USAID. I've been working here since 2013. The objective of the project is to increase the volume of diamond following the right channel according to the Kimberley process while improving the living condition of mining communities. So I'm happy as one of the organizers to be here this morning. To this idea of regional conference goes back, was taken 3 years ago. Initially, we wanted to organize a meeting on the coexistence between ASMA and LSM. And this afternoon, you will hear more about it. Our vocation is to support a more larger process in order to see how the mining sector, ASM, is handled. But this topic was about our mandate, about our mission. That's why these past 3 years, we've started discussing with different partners. So over the 3 years, many things have changed. In Côte d'Ivoire, we have the national plan for rationalization of the ASM, and also this issue also has a regional dimension, not only through the migration of people, but other factors come into play. So in the recent years, the international community, the civil society, the international organization, diplomats have giving interest due to the different change at the international level in terms of recommendation. So those stakeholders have started having a close look at what's the mining sector in West Africa. That's why we've decided to expand the workshop, including different partners, international partners, including the GIZ, USAID, and the European Union, and so on. So the panel we are organizing this morning will try to define the framework for that discussion by focusing on 2 points. First, there is the fact that we have different perspectives, different stakes related to the sector. When we say the multidimensional aspect, people tend to think that we should bring people from the environmental side, from the economic side, and in doing things this way, we can forget some aspects. So those who were here yesterday could see how important is such a framework, because the interest, the stakes, and the perspective are different. One of the objectives of this maiden panel is to focus on come up with practical solution to this phenomenon. So it's not relevant to list the different patterns without suggesting solution to improve it. That's why we are here. So this panel will be as larger as deep, because the different topics will be in depth, deepened during this day. So it's my honor to be moderating this panel, starting with the outlooks, the state of the status, or let's say which will of Cote d'Ivoire, because I have here Seydou Koulibaly, advisor to the Minister of Mining of Cote d'Ivoire. We also have the Governor Dro Joseph, which is the prefect of the region of Bélier in the central part of the country, who will share with us how the local government, local administration is viewing the issue and what's the level of impact for the local community. And Mr. Kone will have different capacity, different cap of large-scale operators, which also have significant, important perspective to share with us, in the presence of Mr. Lansana Guindo, who will help us, which take us to the regional phenomenon, regional element, ingredient of this phenomenon by sharing with us the perspective from Mali. And we have the representative of the NGO Partnership African Canada, and also have the voice of the civil society and the voice of the international community in a broader sense. And finally, Madame Dorothée Gizenga, who is working for an NGO and the executive director of NGO of Diamond Development Initiative. So she will be standing here as an expert, as a technician on how to organize the sector, how to supervise the sector. So it's up to the panel to ask questions as the panelists are making their contribution. Some will make presentation, and by anticipation, I would like to apologize if I have to deny you or to shorten your input, your speech, because we need to be organized. We have time constraint. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Koulibaly to make a short presentation on the PNRO, the outlooks, the challenges, and so on. Mr. Koulibaly, the floor is yours. Thank you, Mr. Terra. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to make a presentation on the national ASM programs on behalf of the Ministry of Mining and Industries. So I'm making this presentation on behalf of the Ministry in Mining on the National ASM Plan. My presentation is outlined as follows: the context of the program, presentation of the program, the institutional framework, the result of the work, and the outlooks. In terms of context, in the absence of the administration in the northern, central and western part of the country, coupled to the surge of the increase of the gold price from 2000 to 2010, all the population has engaged in the mining activities. What we've realized is that this activity has adverse impact with the destruction of the immediate physical environment, deforestation, pollution of surface water due to the use of chemicals in processing the minerals. There was also insecurity, drug addiction, and the proliferation of some IST, such as the HIV/AIDS, and the use of child work in some sites. So, in view of these illegal mining activities, the government has adopted a 3-year program called ASM Plan, adopted in October 2013. This map shows the distribution of ASM activities countrywide. As indicated by the minister during his speech, all the country is covered by that mining ASM activities. These pictures show you the impact in terms of physical environment degradation. These are pictures that I've taken in some area where the ASM activity is taking place. The program has 5 components. The first step, or the first component, is awareness raising in the different regions of the country, the establishment of national technical committee in the area impacted by the activity. The other aspect is the training of the officers of the mining service in the country, focusing on the ASM plan and the data collection techniques. The second component is on the environments. So we have organized, trained some collectors, reposted the officers trained in the field, and the processing of the data they have collected in the different sites. After that phase, we have moved to the classification and organization phase. During that phase, we have been able to characterize the identified site to chase the ASM operator, the miners, and try to organize the activities. We have granted some artisanal and semi-industrial permit were granted, and the component 4 is training and the mentoring of the miners. All around any site of ASM, somebody was mandated to deliver a training to those who have been granted a permit. And that entity is in charge of the monitoring activity during the operation. In terms of supervision of the accredited miners, we have the delivery of a card for mining and the control for the mining and extraction of mineral, guidance and orientation at the level of the registry for production. We advise them to come together in order to create a cooperative, in order to give credit to their activity. We have the closing of different sites. Those who are not compliant with the measure, we are closing, putting an end to their activities. The fifth component is the environmental aspect. During that phase, it's about designing a rehabilitation program for the ASM site awareness raising and support campaign are also provided for, and sensitization on the worst form of child labor in the area. The organization of a campaign to screen and support people affected by the HIV/AIDS. Also, another campaign is organized for those people using drugs. So it's also organized a campaign against the use of explosives and the chemicals as part of the treatment or processing of the gold. Okay, and the HACCP program is also provided. An executive order was adopted for the creation of the National ASM Plan, defining its prerogative and its operation. The institutional framework for piloting this project of ASM Plan consists of the National Steering Committee, the The National Steering Committee is presided over by His Excellency the Prime Minister, and the National Technical Committee is chaired by the representative of the Minister in charge of mining. And the implementation unit placed under the coordination of the officers in charge of the implementation as approved by the minister. The local committee are presided by the prefect of this impacted area, and I would like to commend the work they have done. As a result of the work we have undertaken as part of our ASM plan, the stakeholders were sensitized. 68 local committees were established. More than 400 sites were listed, and with 45% being granted a permit delivered by the government of Côte d'Ivoire. All those identified sites were disbanded, closed, with the material, the equipment seized. Some miners were arrested and taken to court. As part of the result, we have granted several authorizations for ASM. We have trained our fellow workers, collaborators in the countrywide, and currently action are being undertaken in order to rehabilitate those sites where the miners have been chased. So 75% of those sites are over 5 hectares areas. In terms of the number of the operators per site, we are between 50 and 5,000. They're coming from the different countries of the sub-region. So in terms of the condition of the environment, we have an advanced degradation of the physical, social, and security environment. In some areas, we have even noted the construction of some shelters without no appropriate material. One fact, recurring fact, is dispute between the miners and local community. The outlook of our ASM project is as follows: rehabilitate the site where cleared and continue to deliver artisanal and small semi-industrial permit, sustaining the training of the artisanal miners, the clearing of illegal site that have been recolonized by the people, and supporting those miners who want to engage in other activities. Dear colleagues, dear panelists, that takes me to the end of my presentation on the National ASM Plan. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Koulibaly, for your presentation. For those who are from this sub-region, to the PNRO, meaning the National ASM Plan, has a first phase from 2013 to 2016. So there are ongoing reflection on how to move up to the next phase. Of course, yes, you are right. As stated by the minister, after the first phase from 2013 to 2016, we have recorded some shortcomings. So we are engaged in the reflection with all the partners in order to come up with solutions. Which type of weaknesses have you noted? We've noted that some cleared sites have been recolonized or reutilized again, and the creation of new sites. In my view, the National Technical Committee in some region did not do its job. So we are currently discussing with the frontliners, meaning the member of the prefectural corps and the relevant ministry, in order to see how all the stakeholders can come together and address the issue. About the scope of the magnitude of the activity, the phenomenon, in 2014, you have conducted a census where you have identified 5,000 minors. It's difficult to assess it because the result we have given was based on the outcome of the result of the enumerators we've posted on the ground. But we know that it happens that in some sites have been recolonized again. So we need to have some statistics in order to fix the issue. But this is a topic which will be recurrent during this meeting. How do we share information? How do we collect information in order to control the phenomenon? One of the solutions said by the minister is that the authorization, the permits are now being issued. If there are still 5,000 minors, how many artisanal ASM permit have you delivered? More than 40. More than 40 permits were issued, and some will be delivered in the upcoming days. According to Ivorian law, to have an ASM permit, you need to be an Ivorian, a national of the country. So you can get organized in cooperative and seek that permit, that authorization. Thank you for this specification. On this, I will give the floor to the prefect. Prefect, right, just a question to open the discussion. He talked about the operation of setting up committee, declaring the site. In your view, as the field officer, what have been the ups and downs of that activity? I would like to thank you for the opportunity given to the prefectural corps who have discharged the duty of chairman of the local committee to share with you the result achieved on the ground. For our brother who are not Ivorian, to non-national, to understand, we need to build on the Ivorian legislation on land law. In Cote d'Ivoire, the landlord has customary right limited to the area, land area. The subsoil belongs to the government, but the mineral being in the subsoil, if you want to exploit it, to mine it, you need to seek an accreditation, a permit from the government. That's why we're talking about rationalization for the ASM miner. If you are not authorized, it's an illegal activity. When the government created the local committee, according to the director, we have put an end to the activity of miners because none of them has an authorization. Today, the permits have started being delivered, but on the ground, the challenges we faced with was one, at the level of landlord. For a landlord, he cannot accept that we say that the land of his forefathers, that only the surface belongs to him and the subsoil belongs to the government. And sometimes the government will issue a permit to a miner who will come and work there. So they can't understand it. The surface of the land belongs to me and the subsoil belongs to somebody else. As part of the local committee, when we have expelled the miners, this is their everyday activities. This is their source of livelihood. Where do we relocate them? That's why we are suggesting the ministry to make the difference between the exploration permit and the exploitation permit which is granted to the mining companies. Because the miner, the ASM miner that you are chasing, if you go somewhere else where there is no mining activity, ASM activity, he will come back because they all have equipment to detect where they can find gold. If an exploration permit is issued, which is larger than the exploitation permit, so that they can get established in an area where they can have mining. For those who are coming from the sub-region, as per the law. So when you talked about the permit, is it a semi-industrial or industrial scale? For you to make a distinction between how to handle the ASM issue, is it a research permit? The issue is the fact is that the government cannot finance the gold research, mining research, since the mining companies have already explored larger areas. We are giving the exploitation permit so that within that area we can establish the artisanal miners. In most of artisanal miners are working on the areas for which permits have been issued. If the government issue a permit, it has to make sure that nobody else come and work on that area for which the permit has been issued. It's a nature which will be extensively covered this afternoon, because in your legislation, it's not formally offered, but we have practices as part of the diamond activity where permits are given. There are other examples, such as in Burkina Faso. I would like to go back on the issue of land ownership, because this is very important as part of the local development and as part of the management of the local communities. If we realize that 80% of the ASM operators are coming from the ECOWAS region, what are the impacts on the ground? Are all landlords opposed against those people? What type of arrangement is being made between those people and the landlords? As you said, most of the ASM operators, miners, coming from the ECOWAS country, so they cannot come and get established by their own. 90% of case is with the approval of the landlord who will lease the areas to come and do the work. So like in the agricultural area, do they have tutors or, incomes? So I'm a landlord. I have 400 hectares, and I give 200 hectares to the ASM miner operators. And the ASM does not benefit the community, or the community is not benefiting for ASM activities, but is benefiting some individuals. Even though we have indigenous people who are mining gold, this afternoon we're going to see that dynamic as part of diamond, how they have end up formalizing that activity for it to be profitable to the village. I would now give the floor to Mr. Akone. Mr. Akone, we talked about the issue of encroaching on permits. In terms of mapping, 2/3 of the country covered by the research or exploitation permit. When we say that 500,000 of miners, ASM miners, how is the mining industry affected by that phenomenon?
Well, the fact of saying that there is illegal mining on, artisanal mining on an exploration permit or a mining license means that there are some lack of involvement. They need to be involved in the ways to find solutions. What can we do and how do we do it? Because when the small-scale miners invade your site, even partially, in to the detriment of the social, environmental, and public health considerations. You are the one who have to face all the consequences for these areas that cannot be used for agriculture again because of the terrible and dangerous product use, chemicals used there. Sometimes the hole is very close to a home, so it has so many negative impact negative impact to the village or to the detriment of the mining companies, and this can be solved by the administrations of the country or the locality, because everywhere mining companies are operating, when something happens, the first person that we approach is the mining administration, the government authority, like the sub-prefect, that will lead or send us to the village chief to find solutions. So it is a serious problem most of the time for the mining company. But you talked about the impact, and this environmental component is capital, and we will talk about it tomorrow when the representative or expert in that level come, because mercury today is being used and is poisoning many communities. But for the companies that are involved or institutions that are involved in research or in the exploration, what are the expectations to the government? Because you can say that the government has given us the right to do this or that, and we are not supposed to secure this right. But at the same time, we are confronted with realities on ground. For instance, if you have hundreds of thousands of gold panels with no permit, what do we do? In fact, it's one of the problems, because the state will give me a permit to guarantee my operations on the field. But the problem is that the state is not there on the site. It is done through local communities. I come there, what do we do, or which approach should we take? And this is a solution that will involve the administrations and the mining company to see what can be done. Because I come and I find these small-scale miners on a site. The first thing is that it will delay my job, because in my program there is a list of activities that I have to carry out from a period to another period. But now after 1, 2, 3 months, I cannot go forward because of the presence of these small-scale miners. What do I do? Do I go and ask for an extension of the period that is allotted to me? What we have to do is to take all what is happening in the same context and see what can be done. First of all, the exploration will be delayed, and necessarily the expected results will be compromised. Because first of all, take samples of the soil and possibly samples of what is underground. But the thing is that I may not be able to locate them very well, because the objective of my mission, first of all, to identify the surface before going beneath the surface. So, I will get at the end of this, I will get some complementary information, but it will still compromise my normal operating procedures, and it can even result in considerable delays. The day I want to go on the site, I can't work. I will just try to make a survey. It happened to me on the site for a client, because I'm always involved in operation services. And when we got there, the site was invaded. We tried to survey the land, but we couldn't do it. But now, does it happen that these are mining artisans that are working as non-official surveyors who discover these places? Yes, sometimes it happens. It's unavoidable. And this is why I'm saying that it's a real problem. What do we do to value or to encourage the surveys of the lands? Because the thing is that the deadline that we have sometimes are more penalizing than the result that we try to find. that we failed to get. They also talked about securing this site, and that this should be done with control measures, and it's not always obvious. What are the alternative solutions when it comes to the relationships with the community? In fact, relationship with the communities is the best way to solve the problem, because it will lead to open relationship with these communities. And when it happens to that, we can solve the problem. One day I had to expel 10 small-scale miners from a site, and I had to find another place for them. It will still increase the number of sites that are illegally operated. So how do we find a way to stop the proliferation of these people while working? Because the thing is that they follow the stream of the water, and they are very, very strong. They're very, very good at that. It's not traditional small-scale mining. In fact, it involves everything. They use the mystical side of it. They will do sacrifice. They will point something here and say, this is where your gold is. Don't go anywhere. And they will use all sorts of traditional means to say that this is where you're supposed to do your job. And when I come there, he will tell you, no, this is where I'm working. If you tell him, go behind the hut, he'll say, no, I'm not going behind the hut of Ouagadougou. It is here that I'm working. So it's a problem. Mr. Connor, with your permission, I will try to cross the border between you and me and Côte d'Ivoire and Mali and ask our colleague here, are you confronted with the same problem or same challenges? Because we have seen a couple of things in Côte d'Ivoire. What's the experience in your country? Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mali is known for centuries in the area of artisanal mining, and I'm telling you honestly that we've been sharing the same problem. So far, I've not heard something. I think that the same problems that we are sharing are due to the fact that they lack to take into account this kind of activity in our mining policies. And the African Union tried to solve this through the African Mining Vision. And they said that we should take into account this sector, this category of activity, because most of our policies target industrial mining, while this activity has been in our countries for ages. And in Mali, over the recent 10 years, small-scale mining has been evolving seriously, and we've seen that there's some kind of organization in that group. It's not anymore, traditional or small-scale mining. It is a kind of illegal organized mining operation. And like my predecessor, Mr. Coney, said, there is no respect of any laws in the country in this sector, in spite of the fact that this activity is codified in our mining laws. In 2014, we organized a forum on small-scale mining, taking into account the problem, which is pertinent to that activity. And today, in our department, we have many challenges that we are trying to address with respect to that activity. It is an economic challenge because the state does not perceive any return from all this. And the second has to do with a social challenge because there is a deprivation of moral values. There is also a negative environmental impact. And the third thing is the security-related challenge. Yesterday, we lengthily talked about the supply circuits, that if this gold can be used to support mafian network or terrorist groups. So it's a real problem to us. Thank you very much for sharing this concern with us. What it has to do with security, taxes, environment, because tax issue has to do, it's very important because when we talk about 100 metric ton that are illegally exploited, it is seriously a big loss to the state, knowing that there are networks who are benefiting from all this, but in fact it's not the state that benefits from all this. Now, in Mali, how do you organize yourself to address this problem when it comes to commercialization and funding networks? Here in Cote d'Ivoire, we have many buyers who come from Mali, who come from other places. Now, how or what are the recommendations to the government in the face of that phenomenon? In fact, it's a major problem to all of us, and we're trying to find a solution. There have been many studies that have been conducted, and in our, according to our statistics in the area of artisanal gold production, we estimated it at 4.5 metric tons per year, and from the recent estimate, we have more than 15 metric tons of gold. So you see the official figure of 4 metric tons and the real figure of 15 metric tons that are exported from outside the country. Do you think that it's coming from Mali, or that there is a big question here? Can you see the document I'm holding in my hand, the African Eldorado, West African Eldorado, that made an analysis of the mining sector in the various countries, including Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea. And that study highlighted the fact that Mali is a kind of strategic turning point for the exploitation of the gold, which is coming from various countries, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, and even Senegal, just to mention a few. And sometimes they talk about Liberia. And it was confirmed by the prefect of Tengrela, who said that all the gold produced in Tengrela, which is in the northern part of Cote d'Ivoire and the southern part of Mali, all the gold produced in Tengrela is sold in Mali and exported. So it confirms more or less that thesis, according to which, because of the mobility and the migratory flows, we cannot really trace the origin of that gold. Now, for you, what are the reasons for that movement? And is there any measure, and if any, is there any measure to coordinate the activity in the sub-region to address this problem? Well, in Mali, I will honestly say that we don't have measures on that. In fact, the problem was revealed recently. But I know that for the past 5 years, neighbor countries whose central bank was coming to buy gold in Mali were aware, and with that publication will say that it's not only in Mali, but there should be sub-regional or regional effort to find a solution to that problem. The new OECD initiative might find challenges in being implemented in our various jurisdictions. And I think that the last panel tomorrow will try to address this problem. Which institutional anchorage should we give to that orientation and the sharing of experience at regional level? It's a very important issue that we have to debate. And what are the various processes that we need to put in place in the various countries and various levels? It can be a mining sector, customs, or the enforcement of law. Now, you in Mali, do you have a vision regarding that institutional anchorage? Yes, we have a vision. A week ago, in my department, we organized various meetings. We decided to organize various meetings in the country. We want to meet all the stakeholders involved in this sector and try to see how we can overcome all these challenges, because we've seen that there's lack of coordination between the various stakeholders. The customs, the land administration department. You know, this sector is not managed in our country like others. Small-scale mining is a place where the the authorization are given by the mayors. And so we wanted to be compliant with the decentralization policy, so that there should be at least local authority that will issue the authorization. Now, do you think that it worked, it was effective in terms of speeding and the involvement, the implementation of all this process? In fact, it's the biggest problem here, because we think that the permit or the license should be delivered in consultation with the technical department involved. And since money is involved, they will sometimes do all this without consulting the central service. And so sometimes we see some superposition of titles, authorization that are given by people who are not supposed to do it alone, and it creates get the car out of the place. Please, I would like to say something here. I want to share information about an initiative that we have started with a mining company, and it was said that the solution to that rationalization of small-scale mining should be coming from the mining companies, and we try to find a solution with companies that have been suffering for this invasion of ASM operators. So they tried to use part of the power to conduct research studies, and they will give the results to the ASM operators, and they will try to establish all the necessary infrastructure. They will try to build wells. They will build purchasing centers. Will they buy the produce themselves? Even if they don't do it, at least it will be used as a pilot instrument that we can try to cascade to other sectors. I'm asking the question in the afternoon. We'll try to see it. There are so many models of the kind, and I think that there are some reactions. But I think that in the afternoon, they will see the classification of some permits, the declassification of some permits, where and sometimes there's a technical coaching, but there's no commercial relationship between these actors. Maybe in the afternoon we will come back on that case studies. I would like to give the floor to the international community. You can maybe start with the report which Mali referred to. It is a report that showed problems between Cote d'Ivoire and Mali and Burkina Faso in particular. What were the main conclusions? Thank you for this opportunity, and I would like to thank our colleague from Mali who was very open, and I think that many questions were raised where regional cooperation, regional dialogue is very important, and it's something to commend. The reference to research also shows recommendation and mapping of the illegal trade in the sub-region, and this data can also be useful to the debate and help us to find solutions. I would like to apologize. It is written on the screen, but I want to show the conclusions of the research that will lead to many items for discussion. It is a bit informal. There's a number of things that have already been said to clarify regional research in Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and Burkina Faso. So we found there was a lack of cohesion in the area of governmental presence when it comes to the exploitation on mining site. The many losses and and possible instability, lack of the artisanal gold trade is based on pre-funding. All the transactions in that sector are not regulated, and the trade is done in cash, and they are based on trust, network, and competition in prices. So it becomes a serious obstacle to countries in the country, and the supply chains in the three countries are closely interconnected. The borders are porous, So it makes easier the mobility of the manpower, and it exacerbates counterfeit. Cote d'Ivoire is the main source and destination for the mobile manpower. And Cote d'Ivoire, it is estimated that 96% of illegal mining is not declared. And if artisanal production is 300 kilograms, the estimate are between 3 and 6 metric tons per year. And Burkina Faso, and particularly Mali, are the main hub for artisanal mining. And there's a considerable illegal trade between Mali and some operators from the Emirate, as testified on from the data on the export. And sometimes they go beyond the total production of Mali. A substantial part of Malian production are sent to Swiss and South African buyers, refiners. And also there are links between artisanal gold production and other activity. We need to see push the research very well. But I think this is also used as a means of money laundering, and they present some characteristics that justify counterfeiting and smuggling, like drugs and cigarettes that are used to sponsor terrorist organizations on the continent. Now, for the factors, I would say that we have already mentioned the new mining code that fosters the industrial export without recognizing the full economic potential of that sector, and also the officialization of the sector. And the officialization must take into account the structure in the communities. Sometimes we say that because it's an informal or illegal sector, that they are not structured. In fact, they are well structured generally. So if we come with new structures that are imposed to them, then sometimes these structures cannot last because they don't reflect the way they organize themselves. So we need to think in a more holistic manner and take into account the local realities, that there are some structures that are already organized, but they need a little more assistance to improve their organization because they are already organized. I would like to ask that question to Dorothée, but it's the difference that was made with the legalization and formalization. It was a very important, interesting point that the man from Ghana raised, because sometimes we have this tendency to limit ourselves to legalization only, and we forget that formalization is also another ball game, because we need to understand the systems that are in place, and we need to drive them to be integrated in the chain. Sometimes it is a very challenging approach for the state, which is supposed to enforce the law, while there are some realities that sometimes help us, drives us to revisit our approaches. The case of Diamond was also raised there. Joan, you also talked about, you summarized many concerns from the civil society and international community, the associated risk, like funding of terrorism and many other things. I would like to ask you the question. Now, in terms of solutions and your approach, why is it that the OECD due diligence guide is a very important tool in looking for solutions? Well, I think that we need to imagine and also know that the artisanal mining sector is not a national phenomenon. It is there everywhere in the world, but the supply chains are global. So the solution is found with actors who are involved in the global value chain on the upstream and downstream. The same applies to state and stakeholders in various countries. How do we organize ourselves regarding the implementation of the due diligence? It's not done single-handedly. We need to involve all the actors in the value chain, and it requires, it calls for the requirement at the international level. It's recognized in America, in Europe, in the Chamber of Commerce of China, and it's more and more normalized. And the African countries were very much involved in the development of the guide through the Great Lake Association, and recently the President signed the Lusaka Declaration, where they noted, to confirm the support for the support to the implementation of the due diligence guide. It's not coming from outside. It's something to help find a solution to organize and responsibilize the sector. So on the upstream and downstream, everybody is responsible. In fact, here in that business, the wicked one is the auditor who comes to the refinery and says, we need evidence that your supply chain is clean. Where are the documents? And they will now check everything in the value chain to get all the necessary documents to justify that they are operating legally. So in doing so, we can, if the document is there, we can try to improve on the document and get all the evidence that the value chain is responsible and complying with the OECD criteria, which are the criteria for the 12 countries targeted, which show that the state has a very important role to play, and it's something that we'll try to address tomorrow. And there will be a presentation by OECD, a panel that will focus on what is happening at global level, and it's very important. You can see that in Côte d'Ivoire there are projects to erect refineries in the country and in the South region. And now if this is subjected to some external pressures like the adoption of new standards by the European Union, it can compel the operators to adopt some practices. Mrs. Gilinga Dorote, who is here? We can talk about so many things because you have a solid experience on all that has to do with the basics. But I would like to, I find DDI is one of the observators in the Kimberley process. Now, from you, which lesson, according to you, which lesson do we have to draw from all this when we talk about small-scale mining, the strengths and weaknesses? You are taking us back to the Kimberley process. You know, the Kimberley process was, entered into force in 2003, and now we are in 2013, and mainly the success is that it helped to stop the war that was raging in Angola, in countries like Sierra Leone and DRC. But when it comes to the implementation of the main document, where we ask the producing countries in Africa to ensure that there is traceability in many other mining sectors, I would say that there are so many lacunas, and it's because many states don't have the capacity to put everything in place. So we have a system for the certificate of origin that testify that the diamond is coming from a non-conflict country, but the traceability to prove all this is not always reliable. And now we can extrapolate and say that if there is no war in this country, then it's a non-conflict or conflict-free diamond. But we need at least to be able to prove all this. And I would say that the system is improving. We are doing lessons from ourselves and drawing lessons from where we failed, and we're now trying to put in place a number of things. Let me give an example. You see, the system is now less punitive. Today, the Central African Republic can export the diamond, even though there's conflict there, because we have been able to identify conflict-free zones, and we said that the country needs revenue from diamond trade to be able to support and feed the population. We said that in this area we can export, while in other areas we cannot export. In the past, it was not possible. Côte d'Ivoire experienced it when there was an embargo. It was an embargo on the country. And in Zimbabwe, it was the same thing. When there was criticism on human rights violation in Zimbabwe, they were able to locate the area from which they could export. In fact, this strengthens the fact that you should not punish the country that depends from all this sector. So the system is still going this way, but we still have a long way to go now. And there's this famous Declaration of Washington that said that it's very important to develop the artisanal sector in order to control the sector as a whole. Joan raised the same issue as well as other panelists to see the economic position that the artisanal mining represents. We tend to focus on all these problems. But why is it important to talk about development of this sector and you in your experience in terms of trying to provide technical assistance in this sector? What are the pillars that we can rely on to ensure that this activity is contributing to the social and local development? Now, here you need to sensitize all the stakeholders, including the government. The artisanal activity is mainly a poverty-related activity, and we tend to forget it. We characterize artisanal mining as a chaotic or terrible thing, but you forget that this population don't have any alternative. They don't have infrastructure. They don't have anything at all in the community they are living in. And the only thing that they have that is close to them is the mining resources, and naturally they will exploit it. But now when we develop the solution, we forget that it is a poverty-related activity that needs or requires special attention. So it does not fall into the strategy on the mining resources and how do we play with the mining company which is affected. First of all, it is a poverty reduction activity at national level. Now, if we look at it in that way, then we start to introduce community-based development programs, a program to develop the population, and mining activity, artisanal mining activity will become very important. If we don't look things that way, we'll isolate them as we try to come up with development solutions. And illegality is not crime all the time. Because what we realized is that when we made the census for the diggers, we saw that many did not go to legalize the activity because they didn't have the means, or they were very far from the registration office, and moving to these places requires money, and they don't have the digger's card. And so these people will remain in illegality, while the intention was not to operate as criminals. So it's very important. And I'm preoccupied by all this when I hear that people come and say they push them out. You are pushing them out of the site. Where and to do what? If they are population that were born and grew up there and they are working and to survive, now you relocate them somewhere and say that we will now give them this or that. No, you should have taken care of their problems when you came to meet them there. I think that one of the problems in Côte d'Ivoire and in the sub-region is not necessarily the local people that are exploiting the mineral resources. In fact, the people that are coming from outside are sometimes the causes. Do you have the same vision? Yeah, it's a peculiarity in West Africa where people from neighboring countries can come and work, and I understand that it is a particular or a typical illegal situation. In other countries, it might be people from the same country but from other regions in the country that are coming to join the mining communities, and when we try to solve the conflict with the mining company, which concession is occupied by the artisans, the approach that the artisans from the same area have about the company is different from those coming from other provinces. They say that I'm not concerned with this. While the local people are negotiating what they need for their community, the non-locals will say that I don't have anything to gain from that business, so they will be hard to, persuade or convince. And the peculiarity in West Africa is that sometimes they are foreigners, and it's a bit different. But I know that in the relocation, there are local population that are involved in artisanal mining and who are Ivorians, even if they are coming from outside. Them contribute to the local and national development, as we saw in Diamond, which has always been an activity where they take people from the sub-region. So the problem here is to see how we organize ourselves so that it will not create conflict. And also that the benefits should be for the landowners and also benefit the country as a whole. I would like to say that there is a problem. All that we have been doing, all the programs that we have been involved in are reactive. It's not a matter of participatory or preventive programs. The minister from Ghana said that they have an public education program, which is very good, but most of the artisans who are mean don't know what the law is all about. And everybody expects them to know the law. How do we then know it if the government did not take time to go and educate them on the law? And many of them are illiterate. So you need to go and tell them, this is what the mining code is saying. This is what the law says that you should do. And what is your benefit in that law? Because the law should not always sanction them. The law should also be beneficial to them. It's what, unfortunately, we don't find on the field. We expect the citizen to know the law, but you don't do anything to disseminate the law. So it is very important. Expect somebody to obey the law means that that person should know the law. So you need to be proactive. You need to be preemptive in doing all these things. You have to do them in advance. I think it's time to open up the debate to the audience. So I'm going to ask Brahima to help me with the microphones. And I can see a hand up there. We'll start with the technical advisor from Mali, and will be followed by the DJ.
Okay. Thank you, dear moderator. As he said, my name is Bafa Sangare, technical advisor to the Ministry of Mine. I would like to thank all the panelists. We have listened with the greatest interest to all your inputs, and we taking ownership of buying into all what you've said. Starting by the end, what Madame Daruto said have several truths, but we have using our reason, our sense to say that we can make the distinction between the good point and the bad point. But unfortunately, even though the community is not educated on the mining law, there are within that community people who know the laws, but who will tell the contrary, the opposite of their provision as stipulated in the law. Even though they are making laws, lawmakers are in that situation, and this is making it tough the resolution of some problem. In terms of the marketing, the commercialization of gold, my colleague technical advisor has covered the issue, which is the same. So, about this phenomenon, if a given government passed laws, measures which start to work, the other country will suffer. We have listened here during the opening ceremony, the two ministers plus the chairperson of the Mining Commission or Commission for Mineral of Ghana. It's a regional problem, and maybe reason why we all here and that the meeting is dubbed a regional workshop for the best practices in West Africa. So I would like to commend the workshop for dealing with that point. My light concerns is the report which highlighted the practices within the three countries. And we could take away from that report that in the Emirate, over 46 tons of gold were coming from Mali. But the document does not specify whether this is supported by official documents. So we have gold appraisal document which ascertain the quality, the marking, with the seal, the signatures of the authority. Mali has two texts, two instruments on the commercialization, an executive order and implementation order, which is organizing the sector. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Sangare, for your taking the floor. On the one hand, he talked about the issue of the law, the people who are not law abiders, and the question on whether the law are customized, tailored to the reality on the ground. If a law requires that an authorization or pen be taken and they are not entitled to do it, or whether it can be difficult, and also another point on not making the confusion between legalization and formalization. I don't know whether one of the panelists would like to lean on that point or the last one. So the floor is still open. And the DG would like to say a few words. Thank you. My name is Koulibaly Ibrahim, Director General of the Mining of Côte d'Ivoire. I would like to commend all the panelists. The standpoint, the discussion allows us to extensively understand the ins and outs of that activities. I would like to enlarge on it, making a small comment on the last intervention of Mrs. Dorothy. And on that point, I would like to say that in listening to her submission, we have the feeling that, have the impression that we have stated a portion. During the presentation of the technical advisor, he talked about the national ASM plan called National Rationalization Program for ASM and LSM, meaning that this program is supported, is underpinned by a lengthily discussed issue. So it will be difficult to accept that we take a part of that program and to upstage or put the blame on the other part. Talking about getting people to leave the area, of course, we are clearing the site. We are getting people to leave. The mining activities is for nationals, and it was up to the government. Don't forget the context within which we are living in this country. We had a more specific context. It was very difficult, and the government has to play its role. So it was important for us to clear the site, to make people live. This does not mean we are denying this population the right to get established. As a matter of fact, it said that we started granting permits, authorization. It's an upstream work that have been done. It's a set of action which are being rolled out. Let us not just take one activities and qualify all the activities, say that all what we are doing is not good. Thank you, Mr. Director General. So, just as you want to provide a specification, to provide clarity, talking about leaving people, I was not talking about that, focusing on specifically on your problem, but hinting, alluding to all the government, not specifically your programs. That being said, this issue of getting people leave the areas is very important. At what time it's deemed appropriate, when is this viewed as inappropriate? So, as I said in the morning, Côte d'Ivoire has cleared the area without an alternative. And if you decide to ask people to leave, meaning that you have provided for some measures for these people to get resettled or get reconverted in other activities. Be brief. Go straight to the point. I would like to thank the TIRA. My name is Bamba Zakari, the president of the Mining Cooperative Association of Côte d'Ivoire. During the intervention of Koulibaly, he said that there was 45% of areas allocated to large-scale mining that was occupied by ASM. The second point is that the representative of Mali said that 15 tons of gold were declared at the custom office of Mali, while their forecast indicate 45%. In Côte d'Ivoire, the ASM has no figure. That's why we have 0 ton. This point shows that the Ivorian economy in terms of declaration, when you go and visit the website of the Ministry of Mining, you will see that the evaluation made has no figure when it comes to the ASM. So I want that issue to be well interpreted, that it be well treated, due to the fact that Côte d'Ivoire, we have attribution as purchase office, but so far no purchase office have declared 1 gram of gold at the Ministry of Mining. I would like to find out when Mr. Kone says that the artisanal miner are undermining the activity, can we assess the impact in monetary perspective of the mining activity on the gain of the large-scale mining companies? So now, concerning the first concern, we need to have in mind that we are now identifying the issues, the general issue, not the specific issues. So what you are raising is very important in terms of which process do we put in place in order to collect information on the production and declaration of the production. Tomorrow there will be case studies, practical cases concerning diamond. Now, there's one of the panelists want to provide feedback, to react on the issue of management and so on. So when it's industrial, large-scale mining company, need to be clear between the production of the company and the exploration. There is a difference. The direct impact on the production in the long run, if we have to displace the force to come where the miners working, this will result in shortfalls. So don't forget that if you don't know whether the fields, the ore, are all exploited, because there are several cases like this in Côte d'Ivoire. I would like to stream the same line as the prefect of region. The prefect of region was talking about the report of our relationship between the link between the communities and the land. He said that the population, the indigenous population, local population, consider the land as their property, and they consider it that it's appropriate, relevant for the community to enjoy the product of the land. So the land is a community-based property in most of our African and Ivorian community. Why? How come that my cousin made an arrangement with, or signed an agreement, I don't know whether informal, with the ASM operators, so the ASM allows people to make money fast, quickly. Why? How come that my cousin succeeded and I'm exploded? Why the land belongs to us? So the ban, the illegality, which is advocated by most of the activities, this makes that, and countrywide, the ASM activity is growing. I'm from Yamoussoukro. I was surprised to see that saying that there is a program that all the 4 sub-prefectures of the department of Bokanda are affected by that activities. So we need to ponder over it extensively, because if we just stop seize the platform like this meeting to, formulate order without taking into account the reality in the ground, our initiative will be on the way down. When you make people to leave the site, how effective is it? In 2015, there was an operation of clearing the site in my region, in Tengrela. The military police was sent on the ground and to make people leave. And since that military police was sent there, people have left the area. People are now living in the city, and we are neighbor to Mali. We share the same border. When we come to make people leave the site, the operation of controlling the illegal SAM activity should be, let's say, that we should come up with a regional policy, because if we clear people from a site in Côte d'Ivoire, on the Ivorian border side, and nothing is done in Mali, they will cross the border to Mali. And while operation is conducting to sanitize the activities in the Côte d'Ivoire, if the same is done in Mali and the same in Burkina, we can have, let's say, conclusive results. So we're getting back to the same issue on the issue of clearing the site, cleaning the sites. and he hinted at having a regional approach, a regional operation. In all the strategies, no policy should be packaged without taking into account the realities, the experience of the local communities. We should not sit down in the workshop or in our office without taking into account the realities of those people living in those communities. Let us carry on. Madam Anne-Marie, I want to find out if this is the right time to be dealing with the best practices and all what is happening, what's going on. Can I share the experience of Guinea? You can do it, but be brief, be short, go straight to the point. I said the issue are common to other countries, but in Guinea, since 1 year, it has been viewed as a serious problem. We've initiated an initiative for an accountable mining sector development. This means that we've realized that to come up with that, we need to involve the community in mining companies, the decision makers, the civil society, and the local elected people, and involve all the stakeholders, the chiefs, the customary authorities. We organized a roundtable. Strong recommendation came out of that meeting, and we realized that we need to go hand in hand, all together, all stakeholders brought together. In February, we've organized national ASM operators days, where all the area where ASM activity are conducted are represented. And we brought together 20,000 operators, and we have conducted a census. We registered them, and today we have 20,000 ASM operators identified. It's not so registered. It's not so difficult. Let all stakeholders agree to come together, and the job will be easy. Thank you, Anne-Marie. An important point that came out of your contribution, your input, is the need to involve all the stakeholders. Here, we have tried to have this panel be a cross-section of the stakeholders in the sector. So we brought together people, actors from the civil society actors, the governmental officers and so officials and so on. Who's using the microphone? We shift to the other side. Thank you. I'm coming from Congo. I'm not representing the Congolese government. My name is Yves Bawa, and I'm working for an international organization called Impact. In listening to the different input, different presentation from Ghana and the different speakers, there is an issue. Many national, international, local organizations are conducting a lot of research work on the ASM, but the outcome, the results are not available. For instance, there are different figures on the number of excavators at the global level. So there are many takeaways from the different initiatives, but it's not centralized, it's not compiled, whereby researchers, governments, donors, at the national level, the use of the product, it's very difficult to have reliable data. There is a leaflet we read called DELF. Please, I'm recommending you to have a look at that document. It's a World Bank-led initiative which is being developed to see how to build a global database with data on ASM. It's not something a single organization can do. It's still in progress. But you can contribute due to your role, view of your role in the supply chain. You can be somebody who can provide data. You can even say what are your requirements regarding the data. You can be data users. You will be provide input. You can send, be working in a network, be at somewhere. Anytime we need statistics from Cote d'Ivoire, we go there straight and get reliable data. And improvement can be made, and I would like to provide your input on your requirement on how to have a general, global wide platform. The issue of database, data management, sharing of data. You wanted to say something? I would like to say that the DDI conducted a census of the excavators, ASM operators, upon the request from the World Bank. We have data for 2011, 2012, 2014, 2015. We have a total of 229,000 for the operators, but in DR Congo they can amount to 2 million. Only 10% have been targeted, but we have not limited ourselves to the production of data. We have one element taken into account is the profile of the operators. So what can be done in terms of development, in terms of assistance to those populations? We know the level of literacy, the level of education. It's a daunting challenge. And if we go and look for the volume of production, why not seize that opportunity to collect some data from those people working there? And we have taken pictures. We have taken iPad for the census. So it is important to capture more than what you think is necessary for the mining production, because it will be used by other ministry of your own government in order to improve the living condition, the condition of those people. On the issue of data, my brothers raised an issue on the export figures of Mali, which are captured data. These data are official data. It can be done easily because there are data published, and you can make a reconciliation and see the gap between what is legally exported and what is exported illegally. We also conducted a study for the Great Lake region, and we've seen with the surge of the gold price, the official export of the gold is declining while the illegal import is increasing. This takes us to the issue of accountability. It's not only countries who are making production and export that are accountable. The purchasers also accountable. The due diligence guidance or provision should apply to the purchaser. We should make a price pressure. Refineries should make a pressure for them to work in total transparency and engaging in due diligence process and linking the international trade with the domestic market. See if the product is coming from domestic market, as per the due diligence guidance, we need to come up with a regional national solution. This means that within the project, in that national level effort as done in DR Congo, where we managed to sanitize, to clean the chain, we have found, let's say, negative practice where people will buy the product from armed group, and the refinery are discussing with the exporter in order to give them the financing, in order to continue exporting, because these people which resigned has gone with the financing. So with the international community, we want to find solution. This collaboration at the heart of the due diligence. Get all stakeholders involved if we want to come up with a good solution. And this is, but not collecting data is not enough. You need to analyze, draw a conclusion, and adopt steps and measure. But if collection is done, this is a good start. We are heading toward the end of this panel, going to pick maybe 2 or 3 contributions. Thank you. My name is Yusukeke Olivier from the Ministry of African Integration in the Ivorian abroad. I'm representing the ministry in this meeting. Due to the fact that this meeting is a regional meeting, one of the solutions which can be used is to set up a regional program taking into account involving all the relevant countries. What we have realized, I would like to commend Cote d'Ivoire to having established the national ASM rehabilitation program. If that program was a regional program involving the other country, Guinea, Mali, and Burkina Faso specifically, it will be easy to address some aspects that are deemed challenging. Indeed, at the Mano River Union level, which is also affected by the mining activities issue, the World Bank is supporting the establishment of a regional program through the Secretariat of the Union, the Mano River Union, involving the 4 countries which participate in the definition of a set of activities that can be help those countries solve their problem. So now when it comes to the mining issue, it will be appropriate that we think on a regional basis, because it came out of the cross-fertilization that the issue cannot be fixed only at the national level. The European Union, the BOAD, YMO, very active on the issue of regional dimension. YMO, through its regional economic program, is requesting from the state to meet with experts in order to define the regional program. This is the right path. At the level of the Ministry of Integration, we have defined the programs supported by the BOAD called the Wasulu program, which is a transboundary area between Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, and Burkina. This program secured a funding of 500 million to conduct an assessment study for defining priority program. It will be appropriate to get out of our national countries and be considering how we can solve the problem at regional stage, including the security issue. This is where we are heading to, and I would like to get involved, be associated to such activities. I'd like to underscore that it's the Minister Ali Koulibaly, who is the Minister of Ali Koulibaly, who is a statutory participant of the YMO ECOWAS meeting. There are so many opportunities for institutional anchorage, and we need to step up effort to replicate the harmonizations initiative. But the experience of Mano River Union concerning diamond is relevant. There will be a representative of the YMO who will be attending the YMO question. Speakers, my name is Andre Yao from the company CR Resources. My concerns is about the ASM miners. Here we have permits, but in the panel, I don't see there is no ASM operators here in this workshop. So we are here to blame, to criticize, but I discussed with them, they told me that administration is cumbersome. There are red tapes everywhere. Mr. Director General, in Cote d'Ivoire, can't we decentralize this issue of issuing the ASM permits at the level of prefecture or regional directorate? Because most of the time, those people don't know Abidjan. They don't have the resources to travel to Abidjan. So, and why not involve, for the sake of solving the issue, why not take into account the psychology of this local population? We have associated agriculture, be established farms for those villages. Creating school will not create wealth. They don't have money to buy the stationery of those students. Which type of income-generating activity can we put in place aside the ASM activity, as most of the people live on agriculture? Thank you, Mr. Yao. You are underscoring an important issue, or difference between legalization and formalization, and a set of action that go beyond in having the right action, not to encourage people to work. Also have in mind on how we apply the law. We can have pragmatic solution. It's not about changing the law, changing the level. There are arrangements that are important and which will be covered in the afternoon based on the sharing of experience, issuing permit to the villages, the whole villages. Yao was covering the issue a few days ago. Why not give LSM permit to some villages? The last speaker. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would like to commend the panelists. My name is Senghor from the Randgold Company, Exploration Director. My colleague, the previous speaker has touched on an important issue. We, as field workers, I would like to ask two questions. One to Mr. Koulibaly. During your presentation, you've said that a system was put in place in order to conduct a census of recognized sites. Do you think is that system operational? And if it's not operational, don't you think that the miners, ASM miners, are faster than you? I've worked on some 10 sites on which you've worked. I haven't seen somebody from the administration come and conduct a census. Don't you think that if we involve the mining company working on the ground, that system will be more efficient? And the last question, why is your administration so slow? Because anytime we call on you, we call you because we have a problem. A company has a problem with the ASM miner. No administration who will come and support the mining company in those tough periods.
Donc,
Mr. the City Director, the floor is yours to give answers to the question addressed to you. I'd like to thank Senghor from Randgold. For those who don't know him, he's the Director of Exploration of Randgold. I will try to answer your question and up to the Director to complement. For the ongoing action for the new ASM site, the recolonized site, as indicated by the Minister, action are ongoing. The ASM operator miners can be faster than us, but our objective is to achieve our objective, which is to address definitely the issue. It's not only the run gold permit, because I've covered the northern part of the country. There are some permits. We have data or information on some permit. We are working. Maybe we are slow, but the administration is also. This is the reality of the administration. DJ, I don't know whether you will compliment. You want to compliment what I've said. To buttress what the technical advisor just said, there is an assumption we said no human activity is perfect. We are making our mea culpa. We have taken made an initiative, the program. So far, you haven't taken stock of our program. This workshop is timely, as it will help us, provide us with element, tool, ingredient to set our program. So let us acknowledge that we have put in place a baby, and we need to improve it, be lenient with the program. They have its downs, its weaknesses, but we're here to see how do we practically improve the program, how do we get it be operational. What we try to show during that panel is that this type of program will be efficient if we involve all the stakeholders, and that they be able to provide different input. I would like to give you some closing remarks. The idea of this panel was to brainstorm, and there was a proverb talking about somebody who is seeing an eye, doesn't know what it's all about, and at the end of the day, and the other one we see the tail, the leg, and so on. At the end of the day, they find that it's an elephant. But what we wanted to do through this workshop panel is to capture different perspective, different contribution. And this morning, we covered the issue of local development. How do we make sure that this activity be beneficial to the local community and for the national economies? Because if nothing is done, the national economy may lose revenue. And how do we capture the benefit for local communities, which is key for not only the development, but also the development of the sector and the organization of the sector. All these issues will be dealt with in the subsequent stage. You also talked about the consultation and cross-fertilization process with the different stakeholders. We said that it's good to have a multi-stakeholder approach. One element not uncovered is the voice of women in the issue, in the ASM activities, as women have a lot of women working in the ASM. And one point that came out also is the management, and they need to have data, because if there are data and we don't use those data, it will be difficult to achieve our goals. And was also dealt with the issue of the difference between legal framework, formalization, legalization, and practical framework in order to achieve our objective. And also the principle of graduality, not see things in the black and white as illegal, criminal, or entirely organized. We were also confronted with the issue for all, the distance between, the gap between the theory and practices. Unfortunately, it would have been appropriate to organize such a workshop in the mining site, but unfortunately we couldn't do it. So most importantly is the reality on the ground and match all this and take them into account. Also the regional issue in terms of coordination and the institutional linkage to give that coordination. How do we have it done at the different levels, at the appropriate levels? And more importantly, we've debated one point that if we focus only on the production, the output, we may lose a fundamental aspect or component of the supply chain with the network of purchase and sale. Also, the environment, impact on the environment with the use of chemicals, mercury. And beyond all this is the use of land. It's up to the community to decide how to use its land. So the issue of large-scale mining is small-scale mining and pragmatic solution. As many operators working in the areas are pragmatic. They are working in the field, confronted with realities, and we need to involve them. So many components, many elements were dealt with. It's just a way of giving food for thoughts, and I hope that in practical terms, this will give you appetite for lunch. And I would like to thank the panel, thank the gathering, the house, and we are going to have a lunch break.